Money is cited as one of the biggest reasons why couples divorce in the UK, and it's also one of the biggest causes of stress and arguments in relationships. Well, in today's video, what I want to do is really touch on 10 money questions that you should ask your partner before you get married so that you can avoid encountering some of these problems later on in your relationship. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, thanks for stopping by. My name's Tolu. On this channel, I share content all around personal finance, budgeting, frugal living, and I show you how to live your best life on a budget. So in today's video, guys, what I'm going to be doing is talking about the topic of love and money. So today's, of course, Valentine's Day. If you're watching today's video on the day of release, it's the 14th of February and it's Valentine's Day in a lot of countries around the world. Over on my Instagram for the past week, I've been doing loads of content all around the topic of love and money in relationships. So follow me over on Instagram so you can keep up to date with all that money content. But as I was saying, my theme for the whole week has been all around love and money in relationships. I've touched on so many things, like sharing different reasons as to why you may be arguing about money with your partner. I spoke about different ways to find out if you and your partner are financially compatible. I also spoke about financial red flags that you should look out for in a relationship. And in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is expanding on one of those posts that I wrote. This post was sharing money questions that you should ask your partner before you get married. So if you're currently in a relationship now, you're not yet married, but you're thinking about taking it to that next level, these are questions that you should consider asking that significant other and really opening up a conversation and opening up dialogue all about it. And equally, if you're already married, it doesn't mean it's too late for you to approach these topics and have these conversations, because it's never too late to really have these conversations about money. So it doesn't matter where you currently are right now in your relationship, things can change, things can get better. You can transform the financial trajectory of your relationship and of your future if you have these conversations now. Okay, so let me just start by sharing a quick disclaimer. I'm not a financial expert and I'm not a marriage quote. All of what I'm talking about and all the things I suggest in this video are just things that have worked for me and personal experiences in my relationship and my relationship with money and my husband's relationship with money. So don't necessarily take everything I say as gospel. Definitely take it as me just really wanting to share my experiences with you in the hope it can help you on your financial journey and in your relationships too. So my husband and I have been together now for 11 years. It's actually funny because we actually started dating on 14th of February 2008. In 2010 is when we started dating, so it's officially our 11-year anniversary on the day that this video is released. So yay, we made it 11 years. But why I really wanted to do this video and why I really wanted to talk on this subject is because there's so much things that we've learned over the last 11 years of marriage that if we had had these conversations previously or earlier on in our relationship, it would have saved us a lot of trouble, a lot of arguments, a lot of heartache, and just a lot of financial losses if we had really approached these subjects and really spoken openly about it earlier on in our relationship. Which is why I'm doing this video for you today, because if you are in the early stages of your relationship, it's good to kind of have these conversations now so that you can really build a better foundation for yourself and your relationship, and you can really get further quicker and sooner if you approach these subjects and have these conversations earlier on. So like I said, obviously me and my husband have been together for 11 years now. So this mug, actually, ignore the lipstick mark, obviously I've got lipstick on, but yeah, this mug was one of the favors at our wedding a few years ago, or 10 years ago almost. So it's going to be our 10-year anniversary in July. This is such a common tradition in Nigeria, like for weddings and stuff, to give things away as favors. So you give away mugs, pens, kitchen magnets, all these random things that they just stick your faces on. And yeah, it's just a really common thing. If you know about it, let me know in the comment section below, and let me know what kind of favors you had at your wedding if you had these kind of favors. But yeah, this mug is 11 years old and it's still standing strong. We've been in this thing for quite a while. Obviously 11 years in the grander scheme of life is still not a long time, but it's a long enough time for us to have learned so much and for us to have made so many mistakes. And I'm sharing all of this stuff in this video in the hope that it will help you, prevent you from making some of the financial mistakes that we made. With that being said, I'm going to dive right into the video and I'm going to share these questions with you and why I think these questions are important questions for you to ask before you get married. So the first question on the list is, how much debt do you have? Now this is a question that me and my husband did actually ask each other when we got together. It was probably one of the few financial questions and conversations that we had when we got together. So when he asked me that question, I was like yes, because at that time I did have debt. I had my overdraft and my student loan. So yeah, I had my overdraft and my student loan. I didn't have any credit cards at that time because I had paid them off. So my overdraft was about £1,500 at the time. So I had my overdraft and student loan, and then he had a couple of debts of his own. So we both had that open conversation and we both knew, okay, we're entering into this marriage and we both have a bit of debt that we need to pay off. But when we had that conversation, we had said that yes, this is something that we want to clear. We don't want to stay in debt. But we decided together at the time that yes, we're going to to still continue dating, we're going to get married, and we're going to sort out the debt together when we get married. And that's kind of what we did. Another good question to ask is, what are your views when it comes to renting a home versus buying a home? Now, some people don't actually have any intention of buying a home, which is totally fine, whereas other people are really keen to get on a property ladder. Where does your partner sit when it comes to the topic of buying a home? Do they want to buy a home? Don't they want to buy a home? When do they want to buy a home? These are conversations that you really want to have before you get married, because you may have the ambition that, you know, within the next 5 years I want to be on a property ladder, whereas your partner might be thinking, no, I don't want to waste my money on buying a house. I'd rather just rent and keep all the rest of my money for myself and put towards investing or building that wealth in another way. Really, there's no right or wrong when it comes to renting versus buying. It depends on what works for you and what your financial goals and your financial plans are. But these are conversations that you really want to have before you say I do, so that when you get married, it doesn't become a cause of contention and arguments in the home. The next question on the list is, how much savings do you have? Like, you'll be surprised how many people don't have that conversation and don't ask that question and just make assumptions as to how much money that their partner has saved. If your partner is showing you a certain lifestyle, he's able to take you to the fancy restaurants, buy you fancy gifts, you just kind of have that assumption that he must be doing okay financially and he must have a stack of cash saved away. But if you don't ask that question, you might be setting yourself up for disappointment, because you're there thinking, oh yeah, he's got money saved up, because he can't be spending thousands of pounds on a handbag for me if he doesn't have thousands of pounds in his account. But you can't just make that assumption. You need to ask the question so you know for sure, because it's one thing someone presenting themselves in a certain way and making you think that they are a certain way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is their reality and that's where they are financially. If you don't ask the question, you're never gonna know. So it's best to ask that question openly, particularly if you're considering getting married. You don't want to blindly enter into the marriage thinking this guy or this girl is financially secure, only to find out that that person has £0 in their account and every single penny that they earn, they've been spending for the past 25 years. Another important question to ask your partner is, what are your views when it comes to charitable giving? Is that something that's important to you? If not, why not? And if so, why so? Those are important conversations to have early on in the relationship, because if you have a partner that is very dedicated to giving and passionate about giving to charitable causes or just being a blessing to family members, friends, whatever it may be, and you on the other hand don't really feel the need to give your money to other people or give your money away to charity causes, that can be a cause for arguments when you get married, because one person is wanting to give and another person is like, no, why are you giving my money away? There's things that I need to do with this money. This money can be better spent elsewhere. And what will end up happening is that person that wants to give is now going to stop giving and feel a certain way for not being able to do what's in their heart to do. And on the other hand, if you decide that you're still going to do that charitable giving, that partner is going to be feeling the way every single time you give to whatever cause it is, because they're just seeing it as you're wasting the money. So these are important conversations to have and really iron out before you get married, or even if you are married, start having these conversations now so that you can work together and find a compromise and find a happy medium for you both. So maybe if you're a person that likes to give away 10% of your income and your partner doesn't like to give away any, maybe meet in the middle and say, okay, fine, we'll give 5% and then we can build it up as you become more comfortable. It might be something that once they see it and they see that, okay, actually this giving thing isn't such a bad idea, they might even feel the need to start increasing it bit by bit. The next question to ask is, how much money do you actually earn? It's actually surprising how many people don't know how much their partner earns. Like, they don't know the exact salary. They have a rough idea of how much that person earns based on the job title and the industry they're in, but they don't know pound for pound how much their income or salary is. That's an important question to know. You don't want to enter into marriage assuming that he's earning 45,000 only to get married and find out that he only actually earns 25,000. That's a big difference, especially if you have certain financial goals in which you want to meet. You need to have an understanding of how much income that person is earning and vice versa. This question wasn't a question that we asked one another when we got married, but I wish it was one that we had spoken about earlier on in our relationship, because it would have saved us a lot of money and a lot of heartache further down the line. The question here is to ask that person, how do you feel about living on a budget? Is budgeting something you do? What are your thoughts when it comes to having a budget? I think that question is so important to ask in the relationship early on, because if you're both not on the same page when it comes to the management of your finances, it's really going to be problematic in a relationship. Your plans are not going to be aligned. One of you is going to be wanting to save the money, another one's going to want to spend it. One of you is going to be like, oh, we need to invest. The other person is going to be like, no, I need to buy my new shoes. You're going to fight a lot, and there's going to be a lot of contention if there isn't a solid plan in place when it comes to how the finances are going to be handled. I'm not saying you need to do my style of budgeting, which is a zero-based budget, but there needs to be some kind of budget in place. There needs to be some kind of plan in place, and also regular check-ins as well. So it's not enough to just say, okay, yes, I don't mind living on a budget, and then we don't talk about budgets again for the next 5 years. This question is a very important one, and I think it's one that is worth asking, because again, making assumptions about finances or anything in life, to be honest, is going to set you up for disappointment. You can't assume anything, so don't assume that, okay, yeah, we're getting married, I'm taking his last name, that's it, we're in this thing together, and my income is his income and his income is my income. Not everybody thinks like that. Not everybody was raised in that way. Everyone comes to a relationship with their own views when it comes to finances and their own plans in terms of how they plan to manage their finances when they get married. So unless you've had that open and honest conversation about money and about how the household finances will be managed once you walk down the aisle, you're never going to know. So it's best to have that conversation. When we get married, are we going to combine our finances? And if so, how? How are we going to combine our finances? I know for myself and my husband, when we got together, we had said that when we get married, everything is ours. My money is your money is my money. All the money we make goes to the team pot. I know that when people enter into marriage, they have their own issues, their own insecurities, etc. But I feel like when you get married and you decide that you're going to be a unit, it really does need to be a unit in every single way, particularly finances. We know that finances tends to be one of the biggest reasons for relationships breaking down, and I think not being transparent, not having conversations about money, and not having that team mentality when it comes to finances can really hinder you as a couple financially. Our environment, our upbringing, our background, our parents have a really big role to play in how we manage our finances and our relationship with money. So I think having an understanding of your partner's background when it comes to money is very important. So a good question to ask would be, how was money managed in your household as a child growing up? That will really open up a good conversation about what your partner's background is like when it comes to money. How did they see their parents manage money? How was money in their household? Was money easy to come by? Did they see their parents spending a lot of money all the time? Did they see that their parents struggled when it came to finances? Or did they have parents that just bought them what they wanted when they wanted it? So were they just used to having things their way all the time? Really knowing your partner's background when it comes to money will give you a better understanding of why they are the way they are, why they view money in the way they view it, why they spend money the way they view it. And then you can kind of see, okay, this is where you've come from, where do you want to go? You'll be able to take that journey together in a lot more seamless way when you've had that conversation and you really get a more holistic view of them and a better picture of them and their background when it comes to money. I think asking that question alone will really open up a conversation when it comes to money, and you'll be able to get to know so much more about your partner, where they're coming from and how they've arrived at where they are today. It's important to ask that question of your partner. What are your financial goals? Like, where do you see yourself financially in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years time? Like, where do you want to go? What are you trying to achieve? What do you want to get out of life? If you don't have those conversations earlier on, you're not going to know if you're on the same path, if you're on the same journey, if you're trying to get to the same destination. So for example, one of you could say, you know, in the next 5 years I want to buy a house, while the other person might say, for the next 5 years I want to go traveling, I want to see the world. Those are two very different financial goals, and if you're in a relationship, one of you can't be pursuing this travel for 5 years lifestyle while another one of you is trying to save all the money to buy a house. It's not going to work. What would work is if you have an open conversation about these goals. This is what I want to do in 5 years, this is what I want to do in 5 years. Okay, we want to be together, we want to do this together. How are we going to find a compromise? How are we going to meet in the middle? But if we haven't had those conversations up front, all that's going to happen is you're going to enter into marriage. One of you is going to be thinking, oh yeah, we're going traveling for the next 5 years, while the other person is thinking, oh, we're saving up to buy a house. And then it's going to cause conflict, it's going to cause arguments because these things haven't been discussed early on. But I think once you start opening up those lines of communications and really speak about what your financial goals are, why are these your goals, why do you want to do this, what's the plan, what do you want to get out of these goals, have these conversations, and then you can get on the same page. You can find ways to compromise. Maybe rather than traveling for 5 years, you can decide to travel for 2 years, and then for the next 3 years after that, then you can start saving up to buy the house, and let's buy a smaller house that will cost less money. Just really getting together and having these conversations about your financial goals and making sure that those goals align with one another is really going to help you in that relationship in the long run. The final question about money to ask is, what are we going to teach our children about money? This is a really, really important question to ask your partner, particularly if you're planning to have children with them, particularly in marriage. I think that's one subject that you can have a lot of arguments and a lot of fights about, how we're going to raise these kids that we're bringing into this world. You may have one view in terms of the money principles that you want to teach your child, while your partner might have a completely different, conflicting view. So for example, what is more important to you, teaching your child about swagger or teaching your child about savings? Is it important for you to make sure that your child is always in the latest drip, always in designer clothes, or are you more interested in making sure that you have savings in place for your child and your child's financial future? This is a really important conversation to have, because if one of you is on the swagger train and the other one is on the savings train, that's going to be a big topic of contention, because every single time that person comes back with bags of clothing saying, oh, look what I bought for the kids, you're going to be annoyed, because you're going to think that is money that could have gone into that savings account for this child. So it's good to really have these conversations so that you make sure that we're aligned when it comes to the kind of foundation that we want to put in place for our children. And if one of you is team swagger, one of you is team savings, okay, that's fine. We can have different views, but how are we going to compromise? How are we going to meet in the middle? So it may be a case of, okay, we can do swagger half the time and half of the money goes towards savings. So those are just 10 questions to ask your potential spouse before you get married. Like I said, if you are already married, not to worry, you can still have these conversations about money. The main thing I would say is have really clear lines of communication and be open to learning and open to compromise. Compromise is going to take you so far in that relationship, because the reality is we're two different people that have come together or are coming together, and we're not going to agree on everything, but that's fine. Where can we find that common ground? Where can we meet in the middle? And the main objective is to find that common ground so that we can both walk away happy from this conversation, knowing that we've met in the middle and knowing that we've both been heard and listened to. Let me know in the comment section below if these are questions that you've ever asked your current partner or previous partners before, and let me know how those conversations went. Let me know if there's other questions in which I haven't mentioned about money that you would recommend asking a spouse or asking a potential spouse, so it can help other people in this community have these conversations with their partners too. But with that being said, if you've made it this far in the video and you haven't yet given it a thumbs up, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will see you on my next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.